Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, कृपया आपके मोबाइल फोन फ्लाइट मोड में रखें. What did you have in mind when you curated this name for the organization?
A whisperer is someone who understands the language. So we have elephant whisperer, we have animal whisperer, we have wildlife whisperers. Being a product manager, I still say I love product management. I love building products. I love building services.
Why such a niche area as wildlife whisperers?
Not much different. Just the value proposition and the platform where we offer it. My subject, my light, nothing is in my control. All that is in my control is trying to understand the behavior of these animals. We are not taking nature as a backdrop, but we are taking nature itself as a blueprint. I am talking about people with no internet, with no computers, with absolutely zero digital blueprint.
You're bringing about an absolutely new theory, a new thought process of how learning can be done or learning can be executed.
How a termite is able to make its hill, why an elephant actually communicates and how it communicates. And these are very interesting for people to actually doom scroll, is build synergies with organizations which are actually doing that even before us. So that's where Woxsen came into picture. And we are actually telling them that your cell phones do not work. That we make sure that people have uncomfortable conversations with uncomfortable people in their teams. Now, try to understand how a tiger builds its strategies and translate it to the corporate.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the next episode of Woxsen podcast series. If you recall the other episodes that we have done so far, we have had CEOs for you, we have academicians, scientists, ambassadors, and many more. Today, we are bringing a surprise for you, a little surprise. In the sense, this is not pure academics, this is not politics, this is not training, artificial intelligence technology, but something which addresses everything. Well, you'd be thinking, what am I talking about? I don't want to bring the spoiler to you. Let's meet the guest today, a very special person who has been in the corporate for long enough to see the other side of the industry, but transition to a very, very interesting sphere where he brings about value addition, if I may say, a new innovation in the field of training, workshops, learning and development, and a person who has spent a lot of time in the middle of nature, not like a sadhu or a hermit, but very equally and importantly discovering how the nature can contribute to the human being, the corporate professionals, and many more. So rather than wasting time, let's meet our special guest today. I'm talking about one and only Mr. Sai Kiran Bhagavatula, founder and CEO of Wildlife Whisperers. Right, Sai. Welcome you to Woxsen podcast series, and let's have a good discussion.
Sure, Nadeed.
This is going to be an interesting conversation. The first question that I would like to ask him is the organization that he represents before delving into what it does, how different, many other things. I have a lot of questions. Wildlife Whisperers, a very unique name. Yes, it does talk about wildlife, but I think I'm very interested, very curious about the second word, whisperers. So, Sai, what went in your mind in picking up this word, and what does it do? What did you have in mind when you curated this name for the organization?
So, a whisperer is someone who understands the language. So, we have elephant whisperer, we have animal whisperer, we have wildlife whisperers. Someone who can understand the language of nature. Why? Because if you understand the language of nature, probably I see nature as the oldest university, as the oldest educational institution, as the oldest training platform. If I can translate that and bring it to the corporate, there's nothing like that. So initially we thought it as Wildlife Whisperer. Then we said, let's build a community. We call it Wildlife Whisperers.
Fantastic. That's pretty interesting, given the background and the logic that you thought of, using this for the organization's name. What I'm curious is, I know your past. I know what you have been doing. You have been a out-and-out thorough corporate executive, right? You have been a product manager. You have been in technology field. What happened to that life? And why did you suddenly decide to come out of it and start your own thing, being an entrepreneur? And even then, the part two of the question would be, even if you had selected to be an entrepreneur, why such a niche area as wildlife whisperers?
Wonderful question, Pradeep. So, being a product manager, I still say I love product management. I love building products. I love building services. What we are doing currently at Wildlife Whispers is not much different. Just the value proposition and the platform where we offer it is a little different. But everything else is the same. We are looking at something which is kind of niche. We are looking at something which has a lot of influence on people. And don't look at it as a product or a service, but as a deep thought, a change, a perspective shift in people that we want to bring in at Wildlife Whisperers. Just to put in short how the journey has started, right from my childhood, I've been amidst nature. I mean, brought up in a tier 2 city, someone who was enrolled into National Cadet Corps at an early age. All my learnings have been in nature. And then my engineering, the college is not as big as the Woxsen University campus, but we had enough green patch in the college. And most of my time I was sitting amidst the trees and trying to read, trying to think, and then moved to the masters, where it was all about exploring national parks in the US. So I've explored national parks of 49 states of the time that I've got.
49 states.
I was left with one, Hawaii.
Okay.
Yeah. And it was not as a photographer. It was not as someone who wants to make videos out of it and put it on social media, but just as an observer, trying to understand nature not as a casual vacation spot, but as a living ecosystem. And that's where the ideology of Wildlife Whisperers started from.
I'm a little curious to ask here. I've seen some of your photographs, and I think as a normal human being, I find them extraordinary. The only closest comparison that I can bring, and I hope I'll not be questioned on this, is National Geography or the Discovery. That's how beautiful they are. So my question is, the photographer in Sai Kiran Bhagavatula, is he separate from the entrepreneur who was trying to do something in Wildlife Whisperers? Or did it just by accident came together?
See, what precedes photography is something very interesting. Until and unless you observe, I mean, we are talking about wildlife photography here. My model, my light, or subject, I would say, my subject, my light, nothing is in my control. All that is in my control is trying to understand the behavior of these animals. I can't just go to my subject and say, you pretend like this. Probably I fix a frame and then click a picture. So what precedes the photographer Sai Kiran is an observer Sai Kiran, I would say. So someone who can sit, observe animals for hours together. And mind you, that this is not at all a boring field. You try to look at those species where non-verbal communication, you're talking about animals which do not have a language. 7,200 languages humans have discovered. Yet we do not disappoint from misunderstanding other people. But animals as ecosystems, as organizations, have never had a language that we can understand. But probably if we sit for longer times, we can actually look at them, translate it to what it can be for us. There are managers there. There are leaders there. There are someone who will bring in new staff into the company, into their organization. So this is all interesting. And the 10% byproduct of what all you see as pictures has a 90% much more interesting thing, that is animal behavior.
Wow. I think I never heard an explanation of animal language and behavior, transcending into something so important. I think this is where I would be interested to know what exactly is Wildlife Whisperers doing. If I may use, what is your product or the service that you're offering to the industry?
So, see, we are a learning and development company based out of nature, not bound to nature. So,
Okay.
so by that, we are not taking nature as a backdrop, but we are taking nature itself as a blueprint when we are building our programs.
I'm sorry to interrupt here, but sounds very similar to outbound programs that we see happening so many places in the corporates nowadays.
I mean, this is a very fun question to answer because this is probably the first FAQ that we have written when we started building Wildlife Whisperers.
Okay.
That people think it is an outbound. In an outbound is more of a relaxation. Wildlife Whisperers programs are more about reflection. And here we are not, as I said, nature is not a backdrop here. We are not taking people on treks. We are not taking people into jungles to do a trust fall. We are basically taking people into a living ecosystem. Let's not look at nature again as a backdrop here. Let's look at it as a blueprint. We are taking people into a living ecosystem to make them understand the dynamics of this ecosystem. And guess what? This system is much, much older than the human systems that we have built. A company that we have built, the oldest company would probably be a 350-year-old, I would say, even if you are taking pre-industrial revolution,
Right.
350-year-old. The organizations that I'm talking about are as old as 100 million years old. Now, if you start looking at nature from that lens, is when we start becoming more aware of our surroundings, of how every single small ecosystem, small organization operates. And there's a lot that we can learn from them.
But as a corporate, let's say I'm a decision maker or I'm an L&D or HR head, if I listen to this and because of my ignorance of what Wildlife Whisperers is trying to do, would not people like me comprehend this that, are you into corporate tourism in the forest and jungles?
I would not say that as an ignorance because there is nothing like this which has existed till now. So we probably are the first one to do in this continent, in the country. So where we are not making people go sit in a conference room in nature. We are talking about taking people directly into nature. You're not talking about slides. You're not talking about references from the industries that humans have built. Probably if you, in a typical outing, I would say, or a typical offsite, what would happen? You would have a couple of team building activities. Then you get back into a conference room in nature again, and probably sit and look at the references from a learning and development facilitator from the standard human blueprints, right? The industrial blueprints. We might talk about an Apple school of thought. We might talk about a Samsung school of thought. We'll talk about product design from an industry perspective. We might talk about stakeholder management from an industry perspective. Now, remove the entire setup of a conference room. Put these people, and I am talking about people with no internet, with no computers, with absolutely zero digital blueprint. Put them in the jungles. Now you're talking about raw people, raw emotions, and that's when the real learning kicks in.
This sounds pretty challenging when you're saying that the learning that happens in the classrooms and the boardrooms and all these training institutes with so many senior trainers doing the same thing day in, day out for how many years now, right? I think the training industry in India and many other countries is huge in terms of the billions of dollars that it generates. So I think, Sai, what you're doing is somewhere you are, if not challenging, but you're bringing about an absolutely new theory, a new thought process of how learning can be done or learning can be executed. So my question is, are you saying that this is very different from all the PPTs and the trainers that we normally see in a training room and the boardroom and the conferences room?
See, the conference room trainings or the inbound trainings or the typical trainings that we're talking about worked for a longer time. Worked for a time when people did not carry a digital footprint with them all along they go. What we see in the recent time is a digital fatigue, lack of focus in people and lack of clarity. Because your personal world, your professional world, everything is in the palm of your in your palm. And what you're looking at is decrease in the attention span, because there is an overlap between your professional work and your personal work. Both the worlds are come together now. So what you experience in the corporate currently is a lot of digital fatigue. There, though the conventional leadership workshops worked for a long time, but now we can't have the same attention from the audience. We need to put them in a place where they understand that they have to be more aware, and they have to address the digital fatigue. Just imagine having a workshop going on and someone trying to doom scroll, which has become a muscle memory for people. Now we are looking at a place where I'm talking about something completely foreign. I'm talking about how a spider is able to build a web, how a termite is able to make its hill, why an elephant actually communicates and how it communicates within the matriarch. How does it happen? And these are very interesting for people to actually doom scroll. And guess what? There are no phones there.
Now, are you saying that the people whom you take for all these workshops,
Absolutely.
you take away all the digital electronic devices from them?
We don't take away. They do not work. When you're put into something quite new, quite novel, but at the same time quite pure and quite ancient, they tend to understand. Now we are talking about leaders. We are talking about corporate leaders and executives who always wanted that clarity in their teams. Now putting their teams at a place where the place itself demands clarity and awareness, this kicks in. And that has been a game changer for wildlife express, where the corporate leaders that we have approached, the organizations that we have approached, have seen this as a game changer, where we are trying to address how they can take a pause in this digital fatigue. Though, how can they not be a part of that digital imprint and still learn? They move away, they walk away from their digital footprint. They sit at a place which is pure, I would say. And now, especially in this current generation, sitting in a place with a AQI in 2-digit is absolute luxury, right?
Absolutely. And that's unthinkable,
Yeah.
in modern life.
Just try to draw parallels with human brain and an engine. You're trying to give the purest form of oxygen. They start thinking better.
Superb. Okay, let me divert a little bit here. I'll come back to Wildlife Whisperers and his programs. We know that you have a collaboration with Woxsen University. What interests me here is an organization like Wildlife Whisperers and that amazing value that you're trying to add to your prospective clientele. What made you sink in or collaborate with a university like Woxsen University?
Wonderful question, Pradeep. So, even before Wildlife Whisper started, the intent was to address learning and development. Because I have been in the corporate, I have attended a lot of workshops, skill development, understanding the skill gap, building a knowledge base within organizations is something that is perpetual. It happens, right? So, addressing that has always been the prime motive of Wildlife Whisperers. But how do we address that? How do we reach out to people? We were reaching out to individual corporate bodies. And how to reach out to it in a better way is build synergies with organizations which are actually doing that even before us. So that's where Woxsen came into picture. When we talk about learning and development, when we talk about skill building, we're also talking about assessment of organizations at an individual level, trying to address the problems that they have, both related to business productivity and also people management.
I think that only adds on to what a university like Woxsen has been trying to do, which is in terms of the executive education consulting. What a university has to offer is the knowledge, the basic product, okay? And how can you deliver a more valuable product, a more innovative product that addresses the industry requirement, the corporate requirements. And I think Wildlife Whisperers and Woxsen University, the collaboration that has come in, it only innovates a fantastic product which serves not only as a skilling exercise, but maybe a step before consulting, where it gives you the weaponry and the artifacts to deal with business problem and deal it with a different perspective, a different angle altogether. Would you agree to that?
Absolutely. Woxsen Foresight and Woxsen have been doing this for quite some time, identifying the problems in the industry and trying to address it.
Yeah.
What Wildlife Whispers brings in is a different method of how to do it, a very novel method of how to do it.
Right.
So this collaboration, I see it as something quite fruitful because the intent is very clear, the purpose is very clear, and the roadmap is there.
I'm very intrigued to ask you this, okay? And I'm sure our audiences, you would like to know what a typical day, if you are a participant, if you are a trainee in any of these workshops, would look like. Because this is something which is, if I recall, I've been in training for many, many years now. I've seen many outbounds. I've seen many tourism visits that, a lot of organizations are doing. But workshops in the lap of nature, learning from nature around you is something very new. I think on behalf of the audience, I would like to ask this, that can you describe a typical day, meaning any one day, what does it include? What does a participant do? What he or she goes through, right from early morning till the time you say, okay, we are done for the day?
Let's not trying to compare between a conventional workshop or an outbound and Wildlife Whisperers. I wanted to ask you a question here. Of all the workshops that you've attended, there will be some memorable ones where you might have an outbound, probably in nature or at a beach. How did it start?
Well, it started inside the training room as far as I, remember. And there was some activity that was planned, which was conducted outside the training room. And I think as a trainee myself, I can speak for myself, I enjoyed the activity, which gave me more learning. Because it was away from the slides. We have enough of slides and enough of whiteboards and graphs and activities on the paper inside the training room. To me, I think the activity was my major takeaway.
Wonderful. So, what the Wildlife Whisperers workshop doesn't start in the jungle. There is, if we have to divide it, we divide it into a pre-event, the event, and the post-event. Because what we believe is that learning doesn't start on day zero. It starts way before that. The day the CHRO announces saying that there will be a workshop where you'll actually have to go into the jungle, everyone comes with their own pre-assumption that it might be just an outbound. So we start there. We have a curtain raiser event that happens with the corporate even before they step into the jungle to give them a context on what this is going to be. And we are actually telling them that your cell phones do not work.
Oh, okay.
So we are trying to address and give a context to them on how this workshop is going to be. This is not a typical workshop which starts at 8 o'clock in the morning. This starts at 6 in the morning.
6 in the morning?
Yes.
Okay.
So what do you do at 6 in the morning? Generally, if you go on a jungle safari or if you go on an outbound travel to a nature-bound place, you just go there, right? Your day starts there. You'll have either a morning safari or an evening safari or just have a morning walk. But what we realized is that the dopamine kicks in even before the workshop starts. That's where we start addressing it. And then during the workshop, you have to onboard people because this is a completely new method of teaching and learning. I would not say new. Our ancestors learned everything from nature.
Right.
It took some time for us to detach from nature and grow independently, but we are taking people back into nature. So what happens? The onboarding part is nothing but forest bathing as a technique. We make people understand and feel the forest with every other sense. So that's how it starts. There is a grounding exercise with which the entire schedule begins. And you have nature walks. Nature walks are not again those forest treks that we are talking about. You probably would walk a kilometer, would take 45 to 50 minutes of time. You stop at every small thing that you see. You sit, you observe, you make notes. And then after each of these sessions, there will be a session with the naturalist who comes with you on the team, who converts, who translates whatever the natural ecosystem has taught you into the business part of it.
Okay, I would like to come back to that word, naturalist. I think from the time that we have known each other, I've always known you as a naturalist.
Yes.
Okay, I'll come back to you. But let's continue with the, as the day proceeds. So is it like just going around nature, or you also do activities, debriefing sessions, and, stuff like that?
We have a lot of activities planned, and the way we try to design these activities is make sure that there is maximum participation. Okay. What I've observed in my career in the corporate is that when there is a workshop, the front row is filled with all the extroverts who try to answer every other question.
Right.
Right. The middle, the people who are sitting in the middle are the observers who just observe, who make notes, and probably have a one-on-one conversation with the facilitator once it is done. And the last set of row are either people who came in because the training is mandatory, or the people who are introverts. Now, there itself, we are looking at a gap in the employee participation, right? Now, how about having the entire workshop experience across activities which are expressive, across activities which are fun and learning, and activities which are reflective? So now you're trying to address all the three rows of people.
Right.
Reflective is where we have bonfire conversations. We take the problems or whatever the wildlife sightings that they have seen, come back, take it as a problem and try to address that. Take their views about it. Okay. There are fun sessions where we have fun games, everything based out of nature, where the middle row participates. And there are definitely sessions which are more about expressing yourself. Probably during the nature walk, picking some object, a leaf, a flower, and try to build a story around it. Trying to interact with the tribes and understand how they actually do the buying and selling in their markets. These are more expressive. The extroverts are addressed. The fun, you have the middle row address. The very reflective sessions where the last row is also addressed. So we are trying to maximize the participation. Because when a corporate tries to have a learning program, the outcome, what they are looking for, is very simple. They want the team to evolve. And at Wildlife Whispers, we are trying to address that, making sure that everyone evolves.
Okay, I have a question here, which is, if you look at the training industry, especially the B2B kind of requirement as it fulfills. So when a training organization talks to the L&D or the CXOs, more often than not, there's a particular issue, a problem statement, or a requirement that is being stated as an incoming input to the training organization or the trainer.
Yes.
That I want you or you guys to solve this through your training, right? My question here is, whatever we have been hearing, till now, so there are observations in the middle of nature. You are deducing from that. You're opening your senses to a lot of incoming data. How do your facilitators, the trainers, combine or sync all these incoming data, resulting in the desired outcome of the workshop? I'm very curious to know this.
So the entire workshop we take almost a month or two to design the workshop. We sit together with the CHRO or the learning head of the organization to handpick 4 or 5 problems that they're trying to address.
So every training is customized?
Every training is customized and personalized.
Okay.
So depending on their preference, depending on the location that they're looking at, where they want the training to be, should it be in India, should it be abroad? If there is a team sitting outside and they want to come together, how do they want their place to be? And we go to an extent that we make sure that people have uncomfortable conversations with uncomfortable people in their teams.
As in, can you give me an example?
Like, we had a case study where, there was a team which is quite dysfunctional.
Okay.
They don't talk to each other. Egos coming in. They carry their skill along with the ego. How do we address it? Now, we made sure when we designed the workshop and we design the layout on where they actually stay in the resort, we make sure that two people who never interact with each other stay side by side in the jungle.
Side by side, as in
They
form a team?
They form a team. They form a team not just during the activities, on the way they go back to their rooms too.
You're forcing them to stay together, like sharing a room?
Well, if it matters, yes.
Wow.
Because that is when you go into the jungle, as I said, you're not carrying your office badge with you.
Right.
But we're talking about real people.
Uh-huh.
When we're talking about real people, the resume doesn't matter anymore. We're talking about people understanding their empathies, people understanding each other's background and appreciating how long they've come to be colleagues.
So what do you achieve? The example that you're giving, dysfunctional team members or dysfunctional teams. So are you indicating that end of the workshop, these guys come together, shake hands, hug each other, and they work together?
Not so soon, but eventually, yes. We have seen quite a few examples where the CHRO did not expect both of them to come together and work on a problem. They start working on it. Sometimes behavioral changes might take a lot of time, but they need a trigger point, and this workshop might be the trigger point for them.
From the audience perspective, more from understanding what Wildlife Whisperers and Woxsen University is trying to do through these programs, does it address, so the programs and the workshops, does it address separate domains the way industry identifies them? For example, I have a sales team and I have an issue and I need them to be trained. I have a marketing team. I have an ops team. I have an HR team. So there are so many silos in the corporate, and many trainings are also addressing all these different silos. When you impart your, the delivery in the forest, right, in the middle of nature, does it necessarily apply to these silos separately?
It does.
Okay.
It does to an extent. I mean, it again depends on the problem statement the company is giving us. If it is heterogeneous teams that are coming together and we are trying to address it, we have a different way and a different design for them. If it is a single team that comes in and having same problems, then the approach is different. It starts right away from, as I said, from the curtain raiser event to the pre-event, from the pre-event to the event and to the post-event also, where the learning continuity happens.
I'll come back to my promise. I did tell you guys that we'll come back to the word naturalist, a very unique word. You have been a naturalist, and would you also call your trainers, they're also naturalist? So part of the question would be, who is a naturalist, right? And B, I think the audience would also like to know, and I'm pretty intrigued, are the trainers for such workshops very different for the typical corporate trainers?
Okay, let's start with naturalist.
Yes.
Naturalist is someone who understands nature in a very dictionary meaning of it. But at Wildlife Whisperers, we changed it a little bit. We said someone who can understand nature. It's all good. It's the biology of it. Probably look at a plant, look at an animal, give the scientific name of it, tell where can it live, where can it survive, which season does it breed and all, is the biology of it. It does not help me in a learning program, frankly. If my team goes back understanding the scientific name of a tiger is Panthera tigris, it doesn't help me. What a naturalist at Wildlife Whisperers does is go a little beyond. Now, try to understand how a tiger builds its strategies and translate it to the corporate. So the naturalists at Wildlife Whisperers are the people who come with the corporate knowledge, who have worked in the corporate for a significant amount of time, I would say, and convert what the biology that they have seen into business.
So actually, they have seen both the worlds.
Both the worlds, yes.
And it's easy for them to sync with the specialized knowledge that a naturalist would bring on the board.
Absolutely. And that is a game changer for us. What differentiates us from a wildlife touring company, an outbound company, is that the learning is everywhere. Right from the day you step into the jungle to the day you leave. You're talking about looking at ecosystems, right? You're not looking at the biology part of it. We are not asking you to learn the scientific names. We're telling you how a tiger strategizes its hunt. How there is an alarm call in the jungle when other animals see tigers. And there is trust. A langur does not fight with a deer saying that, okay, it might be a false alarm. They run because for them it is survival.
And all these examples that you share, or the participants get to see and experience, you convert them into corporate experiences?
Yes.
Okay.
And when the naturalist, so we have two people on board for a Wildlife Whispers workshop. One is a naturalist, other is a coach.
Okay.
So what naturalist does is bring it to the business and talk about how to strategize, how to build teams, how to bring in trust when trying to draw parallels with the animals. What a facilitator or the coach does is take it from there and focus it on individual productivity. Now we are talking about every individual trying to take it in a different way. When you're talking about domain-specific learning, that is what a coach or a facilitator does. So we work with a lot of the real world facilitators, learning and development facilitators, but someone who actually has understanding of the natural ecosystems again.
I think I'm still sitting with 50, 60 questions in mind, Sai. We don't have time to ask all these questions because this is such a new thing that you have brought in along with Woxsen University. But we are running short of time today, but I cannot leave this last question, which is again a curiosity. So I was talking to a few of the team members who have attended your workshops. For the purpose of discreetness, I am not going to take the name of the organization, but some glimpses that I understood from the experiences, two of the examples very widely talked about, people who have attended your workshops, and I think they have taken your name and the another coach's name. You spoke to them something about what to learn from a spider web, and you said what to learn from an anthill. I was waiting for this day to ask you this question, that what can probably any person, any executive from a corporate learn from a spider web or an anthill?
Let's go with the anthill, which is one of my favorite examples. How have you ever seen an anthill? I know this is we come from a different generation, but this is a difficult question I ask most of the participants because many of them did not see an anthill or a termite hill.
Okay, I think we have all seen it. Okay, unless the new generation who are just born up in the concrete jungle. I, for one, to answer, yes, I think I've seen hundreds. But if you ask me how does it look like, I would say, okay, I was just passing by the road or a jungle. I've seen it, but never been there.
Yes.
But I think our parents would say, okay, stay away from it.
Probably there might be a snake in that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now the next question is, how much time do you think would take to typically build an anthill or a termite hill?
By the ants and the termites?
Yeah, by the ants and the termites.
No idea. What, 2-3 years?
2-3 years. This height, right? Or this height you're talking about?
I've seen 5 feet.
5 feet.
4 feet as well.
Yeah. So 2-3 years. They actually take more than 10 years to build an anthill.
10 years?
10 years to build an anthill, yes.
Okay.
And the worker ants or the worker termites, the average age of a single termite, how much do you think it is? An insect.
What? Weeks?
Yes. Now, Now, if you are talking to a leader in the corporate, what better visioning exercise can you talk about than an ant or a termite which lives hardly for weeks, which is trying to contribute to build a structure as big as time worthy as 10 years. And now the reason why it takes 10 years is another thing, because the temperatures inside termite hill will have a maximum deviation of 5 degrees, no matter how the outside temperature is. That's a different topic about product designing. That's a different topic about how to build engineering structures with absolutely no air conditioning and try to still maintain the temperatures there. We blow up our ACs if the temperature is 48 outside.
Oh, okay.
So the visioning exercise here is a 3 month of entire lifespan termite contributes to building a 10-year-old termite hill.
It sounds like a typical, the team dynamics aligned with the vision and mission of an organization.
And guess what? They do not have stand-up meetings every day.
Oh, yes. That's a good point. Yeah, of course.
So,
not the Monday morning meetings and the
Absolutely.
audits and stuff. Yeah.
How they do it is so fascinating that we had to build workshops on that.
I think I'm left speechless after hearing this entire theory and the very idea behind Wildlife Whisperers and what, especially this collaboration with Woxsen University that you're trying to do. All that I can say, Sai, is best wishes. And I think as part of the university, I feel proud to be part of this journey. And I'm sure the audiences would agree that this is only the starting. And when you do something new, there would be questions. People would doubt. People would be curious. And I think, as they say, the fun in having the cake is tasting it. I think if you really want to experience, you got to be a part of this. Sign up. Let's do a couple of programs, experience, feel, and only then you come to know what these workshops are meant for and how are they different. Thank you, Sai, for this amazing discussion. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Pradeep.
And I think what you made us realize today is that the definition of training is undergoing a huge, huge change. That was Mr. Sai Kiran Bhagavatula, CEO and founder of Wildlife Whisperers for you. I was left speechless. I don't know about you, but there's been a lot of learning. Who would have thought that in 2026, a training organization, well, they don't call themselves a training organization. They are into workshops. They are helping participants to innovate a new kind of life. And I think it's not only impacting the life in the corporate. My takeaway is these learnings would impact the way you lead your life, the personal life back home. Amazing learning. It's wonderful to know the person behind this entire thought process, right? And as usual, our promise from the university to bring you new thoughts, new people, new ideologies, and new innovations. And we will continue to do that. And it's time to sign off. This is Pradeep Ganguly, Director of Woxsen Foresight, saying bye to you with a promise that we're going to come back soon for the next episode, another interesting one with another interesting person from the corporate in the Woxsen podcast series. Have a good day.